Oh, what a beautiful day, made even more beautiful because Jamie Jackson is on All for United. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. You okay?
Yeah, you bringing the sunshine indoors. You've got the shades on. You look summery.
Yes, it's sweltering up in this part of Cheshire.
It's so hot, isn't it? It is so hot today. But as ever, the world doesn't stop. It's a hot day. People are outside enjoying the sun, spending time with families. But still, loads of rumours surrounding transfers and especially Manchester United transfers. So we've had a lot of comments in. So I think to start off, before I go into everyone else's question, because transfer Q&A is all about you guys getting to ask some of the top journalists in football questions, whether it's about transfer window, whether it's about certain rumours that we're all hearing about. It's your chance to ask a question. So if you want to get in the live chat, please do send in your questions for Jamie. And over the next 20 minutes, we'll ask as many as we can. But I suppose the only place we can start, and you'll probably ask this question a lot, Jamie, is Jadon Sancho. Where are we at?
Well, I think it's going to happen. I think all parties want it to happen. So that's obviously Dortmund, United, and the player. I think this inverted commas deadline of was it the 10th of August is artificial. Certainly, that's how it's characterised to me by people who should know what's going on with it. It's a haggling thing. Often, if not always, it comes down to money. My feeling is, my understanding is that in the end, it'll be some sort of fee stroke deal that will allow both clubs, that's obviously Dortmund and United, to sort of come away and say, yeah, we got the deal that we wanted, But no, I think it's fair to say that if it was not to happen, at the moment, it'd be a massive shock. The only thing to add to that is transfers are very tricky to pull off, to report on, so things can change. But at the moment, I'm not hearing or anything else other than it will happen. Maybe sooner rather than later. I'm not saying today or tomorrow, but coming week maybe. But again, it could genuinely be on for the coming week and then something happen unforeseen, because that's how these things work, and it could go on a little bit longer. So, if I was a United fan, which I'm not, but I am a United reporter and I do love our football, I'd be excited, if Sancho, as it looks like, is going to be going to United.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting what you say there. If we hit on that, just first of all, about the deadline. Now, obviously, there was a big report that United have got this Monday deadline, so tomorrow, and that was reported from the very start that we heard of these talks potentially happening. You're saying nonsense.
Well, what my understanding is that that's coming from Dortmund. They're getting that message out, and which is obviously their right. Which to me, actually, if you're United, that's saying to United, we want the sale of this player. We want the money, need the money. So they're going to try and artificially speed it up. So I think as a bargaining ploy, or using it as a bargaining chip, is a little bit counterproductive, because, as I say, United aren't stupid, neither are Dortmund, but clubs and parties involved in transfers are always, if you've got anything about them, they will read what's going on. So that United will be looking at that, thinking, oh, okay, that's interesting. So you try to hurry this up, right? That's strengthening our position, because that really does confirm, which they already know anyway, but really does emphasise that they want to sell Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new people on right now. So, guys, if you're watching this for the first time, you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you also hit a like. We're doing quite a few of these transfer Q&A, so we're going to have some of Jamie's colleagues on as well, who are fantastic. And we so thank everyone for giving up their time to chatting to us, and obviously fans out there as well. Thanks to modern day technology, of course. We had Ed Aarons on, Jamie, earlier on last week, and he said about the fee that he, from what his understanding was, and from what Fabrizio, obviously one of your colleagues' understanding is that United are willing to pay 90 million euros in instalments, but obviously Dortmund want 120 million euros and more like a 90 million upfront payment. Do you really think that Dortmund may sort of hold back here for that fee, or do you think it will come a point where if that fee gets towards 100, 110, they're going to have to accept it?
I think they may end up with a deal, Dortmund, which says 120, but sort of 20 or 30 million of that will be add-ons, which are not unrealistic, but somewhere down the track, like, winning the Champions League or a couple of Premier League titles, however they want to build it in. And that's kind of what I meant when I referred to earlier, that both sides in the end will probably come out of this saying, yeah, we got the deal we wanted. And that's exactly what I was talking about, this idea of add-ons. with regard to, there's going to be a lump sum or instalments. Again, there'll probably be something in the middle. You may see United paying 50 million, as a lump sum. So Dortmund have that straight away, and then the rest in instalments. We're sort of now just getting down to the kind of the final parts of it, as I understand it. This Jadon Sancho, he looks like he's going to come in, and then what else do United do this summer window? Be interesting.
Yeah, no, 100%. And what a fantastic footballer as well to bring into the club. He's probably one of the only world-class footballers out there who's available this summer and for a price. So, if you're going to buy Jadon Sancho, he's definitely going to improve your side. And with Ollie's mentality and his philosophy with his transfers as well, fits in perfectly with the mould of United going forward. Now, obviously, the Transfer Q&A show, this is all about you getting your questions to some amazing journalists like Jamie. So if you hit subscribe to the channel, follow as well. We're on Twitter, we're on Twitch too. Get in the live chat and ask your questions. Hello to Amit. I'm going to go straight away here to a question from Sidant, Jamie. He says, hey, Jamie, Sancho is in London and apparently still in the UK. Do you think that this accelerates the move to United? Is there any truth around that?
I don't really think it matters too much where the player is with regard to accelerating the move, because he's obviously not going to, be involved for United in the Europa League, even if he signs tomorrow, sort of thing. So I don't know, really. I wouldn't read too much into that. He's obviously from London. I think he's from a part of London. I certainly grew up in a part of London called Oval, just south of the river. Kennington, maybe it is. So it may be a family thing. He's here, obviously. He's at Watford. He was at Manchester City. And that's actually the other interesting element, or one of the many other interesting elements of this deal, is City won't be happy about this at all, because Guardiola really, really liked him. They offered him the deal that summer 2017, which I think was quite a handsome deal. But he just felt that he had to, move away, go abroad, obviously to Dortmund. But that's another reason why, if you're Manchester United, as you mentioned about Ollie's mentality and philosophy, how he wants to play, and also with how he's sort of not rebuilding the club, but sort of realigning the culture. This really does fit in to all of that. It's a really good landmark signing. So I'm not so sure it matters where the player actually is.
I don't think he's here because he's signing for Manchester United. Let's put it that way. Maybe he had secret talks, but who knows? Who knows what's happening in the background? Actually, Jamie, on that, you mentioned City, them not being too happy with this. I want to ask you a quick question from a few reports I've seen. Do you know if there's any truth in the rumour that whatever happens with the transfer, City could land 15 million out of this transfer?
I think that is correct.
That is correct. Okay, well, that's really interesting. Maybe that is why Dortmund want that extra 15 million, is they don't want to, they don't want to cough up that extra fee for City. So it'd be interesting to see if United, I think we have done in the past, gone straight to a parent club like that and gone, hey, we'll pay you the money direct instead of going through the middle ground. There's so many different ways that this transfer can work and not work. It's ridiculous. We always get one of these questions, Jamie. So guys, let me just say, obviously we want you to ask Jamie questions, but there's no point in asking him for a date and a time as when Sancho is going to be announced or signed. Let's go a bit more forward with the questions. But I think Craig here, he just wants to know your views on, do you expect United to make the transfer happen? And in terms of when do you think it will be completed, let's rephrase that a little bit. Do you think this has the potential to go all the way through to that October deadline day?
Okay, so the second part. At the moment, no, I don't think it will. But I did say earlier that you never can tell with transfers. They're very tricky to pull off, which is basically the main reason, not the only one, but the main reason why managers, club officials don't like to speak about transfers, because they could end up looking like they've got egg on their face. They didn't know what they're talking about, because things can genuinely change. But yeah, I do expect it to go through. It's very, very. I've reported on a lot of transfers for United. Basically, started this job, which was the penultimate Ferguson season, 2012, 11-12 was it? Done a lot of these summers, and there's certain things that occur, certain eventualities that tell you what's going on. And with this one, it just who knows what will happen, but it feel very secure if you're a United executive, the manager, a fan, and so the time frame, I wouldn't be surprised if it's within the next week or so. Let's put it that way.
Fingers crossed. Hades Kieran says, what's up, boys? Let's get this deal done, then win the Europa League. On that, Jamie, let's actually talk a little bit off of transfers. The Europa League's here. United are obviously through. We've got Copenhagen on Monday. What are you expecting? Do you think United can go all the way in the competition? Do you think we will?
Yeah, well, listen, I think he definitely can win it. Who would want to play Manchester United at the moment? Yeah, I mean, I should have actually been in Germany to cover this game tomorrow, but because of UEFA, because of COVID, only allocated a certain amount of passes. It was done by ballot, so I'll be there for the semi-final if they do get through. Yeah, I think what that would really finish off. I'd say a very promising first full season for Solskjaer if he's got a trophy. That's what it's all about at Manchester United. You could meet Wolves in the final, and I believe Inter, and in the other half, the draw. So that might be a nice final. But yeah, I mean, I think you're the favourites, quite clearly, really. But it is the one thing I'd say is it is a cup competition with regard to it being a single knockout stage stroke scenario now, starting with the game tomorrow. So that does give it one thing that's interesting. So Ollie's due to do a presser. I'll be doing that via Zoom. He's doing that at 5:45 our time. What's he going to do about the goalkeeper? It's usually Romero, but then he has a habit. Maybe he'll put De Gea in for the sort of latter stages, or he may consider that. Will he do this? Will he do that? Because we all know about the De Gea thing. But then beyond that, the team is kind of settled. Really, it's difficult to get into the team at the moment. I've been surprised actually that McTominay hasn't got back in ahead of Matic. So okay, he was played really well, but then I started to notice he was losing the odd ball and just clumsy touch, etc. So I wonder whether that might be a position you'll look at least. It's one of the things I may well ask Molly in the press conference that I mentioned, just about, what do you think about Matic's form? What do you think about McTominay? Because McTominay for me is 100% a Manchester United player. He's good enough, leadership qualities, all the rest of it. But it's a good, how many summers again or how many years have I been, or had I been writing about the midfield or lack of it at United? He's kind of basically solved it with Fernandes, Pogba looking happy, McTominay coming through, Fred looks half a player again. It does look rosy. So yeah, let's wait and see what Ollie says.
Do you know what? I really want us to go for it. So I don't want us to sort of treat the Europa League like a pre-season tournament. So don't take this the wrong way at all. But I think we've got two good enough goalkeepers there to rotate them at half-time and have no problems. We've got 5 substitutions. So why not? If you want to keep a bit of harmony there. But I suppose will Romero be at United next year? It all depends what happens with Henderson, I suppose. What do you think is going to happen? Because we've got a few questions coming in here about the young lads, Jamie. The likes of Garner, Levitt, Chong, whether they're going to go on loan. I mean, I know Chong's been ruined with a 2-year loan deal at Bremen. And also Henderson, potentially Sheffield United, really keen to have him back next year. Although they've made a bid for Ramsdale, haven't they, from Bournemouth as well, from what I've seen. What do you expect to happen with some of these young lads? Have you heard any whispers about what might be happening?
The Henderson one, I don't know for sure, but I think he may well go back out alone again. I mean, he's got a decision to make there, Solskjaer. But it's interesting because whenever, there is this discussion or debate about De Gea, the mood music always seems to be, oh, what about Henderson? But for me, what about Romero? I think he's still Argentina's number one, or certainly, he was for years. He's a very good keeper. I've never seen him make any mistakes. I've seen him come in at late notice and play some good games for United, because there's been a late injury to De Gea. So, yeah, I mean, Henderson, I think, will probably go on loan again. Or if he does not go on loan, that would be an interesting signal from Solskjaer. But I think at the moment, De Gea remains the number one. I mean, listen, fans might not want to hear this, and he won't always be kept in the team because of this, but it is quite hard when you've got a player who's on best part of 300 grand a week, I think it is, who just signed that contract last September. So you're looking at, he's got another 4 years. Even if you wanted to sell him, I'm not saying that Solskjaer does necessarily, who's going to pick him up the where he wants to go? Real Madrid wanted him a couple of years ago, whenever it was. Excuse me. And if you're going to sort of sell him, maybe that was the time. I mean, yes, the other younger players, I think it'll be the usual mix. Maybe a couple will go on loan. But knowing or seeing what he's done with Williams, especially, and Greenwood, but Greenwood's less of a surprise because I think he was always considered. I remember talking to people at the club a few years ago when he was a kid, sort of 13, 14, 15. He was always, I know it's difficult for this to actually always manifest itself, but he was always considered a real star, Greenwood. With Williams, that's been a real bonus. And I think that will encourage Ollie to keep back, 2 or 3 players who can come through like Williams did this season. So yeah, I think it'll be a mix. The Chong one's interesting. because he's been on the fringes of the team. I think he got the Jimmy Murphy Young Player of the Year award a couple of seasons ago. Can he go away and come back in? You've got Fosu Mensah, who obviously did that. Been on loan. I think it was Palace, Fulham. He seems to have impressed enough to be a squad player. I mean, even now it's difficult to get in this squad. And the other one that's interesting is Jesse Lingard, who's obviously not a player, but we're talking sort of transfers here or possibles ins and out. My understanding is I did a story on this that they'll listen to offers for Lingard. I mean, at the moment, does Lingard get in Manchester United's best 18? He might do just about, but you understand what I'm saying? And I think that just sort of shows, for whatever reason, the kind of, what his status is there. He could still stay. For me, I think he's a useful squad player, but it's also about the player. He might be looking at, he's no longer younger. He's like 27, 28. He may well be looking at it thinking, well, is it time? Do I actually want to leave my boyhood club?
Yeah. No, 100%, guys. We're going to do about 5-10 minutes more with Jamie, so please get your questions in. If you've not subscribed to your YouTube channel yet, youtube.com/allforunited. Get in the live chat. If you're on Twitch, hit follow as well, by the way. We've just signed up today. Jamie, just on Jesse Lingard, and I suppose on the fringe players. So the names that we heard at the start of the season were Alexis, gone. Smalling coming back, and Ollie's doing the whole thing again that he loves to do in press conferences. And he was talking up Chris Smalling like he was the forthcoming Maldini. And then we've got the likes of Jesse Lingard, like you said there, Dallo, who's out of favour, and Juan Mata, obviously, who's also been linked with a move away. So do you think they are all players United are willing to listen to offers to, including Chris Smalling? And just reflecting on your original point that you said about Jesse Lingard, so 2-question-1 here. United will listen to offers, but what is a respectable price tag at the moment for Jesse Lingard? Because I've always thought he's one of those players who sort of he's hot and cold constantly. And you look at a number of clubs out there, and yeah, maybe he gets in their side, but you're not paying for real quality with Jesse Lingard. You're paying for a good player. A good player. How much is a good player? Because we've seen Højbjerg go from Southampton to Tottenham for 18 million. And I think that's cheap because I think he's a good player. So what is a Jesse Lingard worth? Because I definitely wouldn't sell him for 18 million.
Well, that's an interesting point. Obviously, it's governed a little bit by what's left on his contract, which is only a year. I mean, they have a year option, but at the moment, that does not exist. There's a year left. Now, they might exercise that option because then he's got 2 years, and that they would hope would drive the price up. It'd be interesting it's a really good question. I think 18 is under the.
Can I just tell you, Jamie, right? We've had some prices come in. Sorry, you can continue. Kieran's gone 22 million, right? Then Ayush has gone 35 million. So which then led to Lee goes 25 million. And then Kieran said if Ake is 41 million, then so it really is a conundrum, isn't it? What are good players worth nowadays?
Well, no, it is. And any of those prices, I wouldn't be surprised if he did go for that. I think anything in the 40s is a ridiculous result, considering Fernandes was an initial 46. Bruno Fernandes. Now, I think he probably goes for the best part of 25. Any more than that, and I think United have had a real result, really. Just because until the goal at Leicester City, the last game, obviously, of the Premier League season, he hadn't scored in the league since December 18. Basically, since Ollie's first ever game, the 5-1, was it, at Cardiff? Mm-hmm. Scored in that. So it's a good question. I mean, you get the feeling, it kind of reminds me, I think he's a better player, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of Tom Cleverley.
Yes. Brilliant.
In a very good United team, which United haven't had since Lingard, but Cleverley I'm talking about. He won a league, I think, and he played quite regularly, and he played for England. But he's not going to, because it didn't happen. I think he went to Everton, did he? And then he's now at Watford. He's not going to be a star man like a Pogba is wherever he would go. And I think with Lingard, unless something changes from the sort of what we've seen of his career. You could see him going to Everton or West Ham, and being in the team exactly like you say. But he's not going to transform a side like a Fernandes. He just the proof of what I'm saying is in his career at United. Mm-hmm. You say Hot Collie scored a great goal to win the FA Cup final. What a thing to do! For your boyhood club, he's always got that. And I remember doing quite a bit of work on England youth teams a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And when I was speaking to coaches who'd been at England, coaching the youth setups, a lot of them off their own back said, Lingard was always the one in training. And that stuck in my, you hear that a lot about him. He's a really good player in training, but in matches, not always. And it's a bit of a shame, really, because, I do think he has got something which makes him out of the ordinary, but he doesn't always show it, basically, as you just said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And just this one, Jamie. Barry, who contributes quite a lot to the channel, United, brilliant lad. Barry. He's gone. Ben, I would sell Lingard for £18. He's a big fan of Jesse Lingard. Phil Jones is another one, by the way, who I can't see going anywhere because he's on this rehabilitation thing. But he's also moved, like in terms of his time at United, is probably at an end now. So do you think, Jamie? So looking at those names, looking at Jones, looking at Smalling, looking at Lingard, also Wan Mata. You don't expect an exodus of all of them, do you? Do you think? What do you think? Are there any whispers on it? Because I know about 2 or 3 weeks ago there was a story with Mata to Fenerbahce, but even looking at the options we've got now, we could do with a Mata in the squad. I mean, I know it's not the future, but if we're going to let Lingard go, we could do with keeping Mata around the squad. So, and Dallow's another one, by the way, has been mentioned. Sorry to keep throwing names at you, but it seems like things are boiling and we're hearing rumours, but there's nothing concrete yet.
Yeah, I mean, Dallow was interested because he's obviously a Mourinho signing. He loved him. I think there was even a quote him said he could be United's right back for the next 10 years, that sort of thing. Solskjaer, as far as I can sort of remember or see, he's never really given him a massive chance. He just decided he wasn't for him, and then came Wan-Bissaka. I think they keep him because he can play left and right back, which is obviously very useful. But what's interesting when we're talking about these players that you mentioned, Alexis is gone, Smalling's back, but I think he's on his way. Jones, touch and go. Wan Mata, I think they'll keep because I think he's good for the dressing room. He's won everything. He's actually won everything you can win in football apart from the Premier League. So club and country, obviously World Cups, etc. And I think he's just got that personality where he will add to the dressing room through that vast experience. And I do think he's a half decent player. But what I was going to go on to say was this is one of the massive things that Ollie has done. He's revolutionised the squad with regard to getting. It's not easy to get rid of a lot of players, even if they have to go, because who do you replace them with? What happens? There's going to be a bedding in period, all the rest of it. And that's why this season maybe it's worth looking beyond. Yeah, third place is brilliant, and if they win the Europa League, great. But just kind of what he's done to where the club is now going for the first time since Ferguson left. And as I said, I've covered them ever since he was there. Last couple of seasons, Ferguson. The first time since he left, there really is a plan in place and a vision, and there's going to be bumps in the road and all the rest of it. But I remember the Schweinsteiger summer, Schneiderlin, the Galactical one with Falco and Di Maria. Di Maria didn't want to come, pen that letter to Real Madrid fans saying, basically, I don't want to leave. What are you doing? British all these sort of things. Now that sort of stuff, which is a little bit laughable, really, I've got to say.
Yeah.
We're talking about a multi-million-pound business, but also with basically England's biggest club, and if not the world's. A bit amateurish, really, but all that's sort of gone away a little bit. And Ollie's Gunnar Solskjaer deserves a lot of credit for that because it's come from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think we should be excited as Reds moving forward because of that direction and where we're going. Now, Jamie, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so I've asked people to just send in quick questions. So if we'll keep the answers really brief to these ones. But Amanda said, are we looking at anyone in a centre-back position? Someone earlier on in the comments mentioned about Gabriel, possibly as well. Is there any movement on that transfer potentially? Is there anything you're hearing?
Well, it's interesting at the centre-back one because who I think they'd love to get is Kalidou Koulibaly, the Napoli guy, who is a proper central defender, but he's also got pace. Because what I think you're lacking, well, I know you're lacking because I see it all the time, is pace at centre back. Will Bailly give you that? Well, can he stay fit? So you can't afford, if you're going to be a proper team, to have doubt about fitness about players. So, but I don't, have they got 80, 85? I think it's 90 million euros, wasn't it? The president said. Listen, I'm not the money people there. I don't know exactly what's going on, but if you're looking at what Solskjaer's done, and if you're bringing in Sancho, can you go that extra bit and say, right, we're going to do another, basically, Sancho? I don't think they will. I'm told that, like everyone in every walk of life, including Manchester United, the unfortunate pandemic has hit them, but they do have. Let's get it right. They do have money. Manchester United. The Adidas kit deal is worth 75 million a summer. For 10 years. We're about second year into that. So that's more or less a Koulibaly. Ake. So you've got that scale of it, but the way they could have gone, and maybe I think they'll try to go, is like an Ake. Ake would have been ideal, I think, for them if they believed he was good enough because of the price, half the price. What I talk about there for Koulibaly. So will they pull a rabbit out of the hat. On the Gabriel one, I haven't got anything actually on that at the moment. But I do think they might be looking at maybe what Klopp did with Robertson. Yeah, you know that he was at Hull, wasn't he? And I don't know what was he, 7 million or something ridiculous. You know, he's captain of Scotland and one of their best players basically in a flying Liverpool team. That's maybe what, and that's what I thought he tried to do last summer, and it didn't quite. So it hasn't worked so far with Daniel James. Okay, maybe he was signposted a little bit more than Robertson. But what I'm saying is, going to the Championship, get a Swansea player, didn't cost that much. Was he 15? That's what they'll be looking to do, I think. So I think they will definitely come out of this window with another centre back. They have to. I mean, you've only really got two, and they can be suspect, as I say, Maguire and Lindelof, who are fit all the time and basically play. And I think, I don't know really, if they could get one more player, whether that be a defensive midfielder, maybe today is not quite the time, but it'd be interesting to know what he really thinks of Matic, because he was playing well, but he's gone back to that sort of sluggishness for me anyway. So is there another position there, another berth? Because I don't think he fancies Pereira anymore.
I think that could be potentially why he's so desperate to send Garner out for some Championship football next year, because let's face it, the kid's just the talent there. He's as talented in a different position though to Mason Greenwood. He could be as effective for United in that position as Mason Greenwood has been for United going forward. So potentially that's why we want to give him first team football, because you can't give a young lad like that, you can't just chuck him straight into the middle of the pitch and ask him to conduct a game. It's just not going to happen. And actually on that, Man United Focus said, ask Jamie, United looking to address the defensive midfield position. I think you sort of hit on that anyway. So I'll move on to another question, which is anything on Pogba signing a new deal?
I love the Pogba question because it always comes up in it, and it's because it's a valid one. So when I said earlier that I feel like Solskjaer has solved the midfield problem that you've had for years, not anyone good really. The slight caveat is Pogba. Only in that is he definitely 100% happy. So to stay, not will he stay, because I think he probably will, because there isn't anyone who will buy where he wants to go, Real basically. So if he does stay, is he then happy to stay? Because if so, that is a massive bonus, because the thing about Pogba, right, is he doesn't have to play. It'd be great if he could. He doesn't have to play World Cup winning, man of the match performances every game. He brings you something anyway. He brings you class, assurance, but and then there are these standout performances. And so to answer my own question, my feeling is, I don't know this for sure, that if and when he does stay, I think he will be happy to, because I think he's now in a team where it's not all on him. I don't care who you are, being blamed all the time for Manchester United not playing well, which kind of became a little bit of a patsy for that. It's not going to make anyone happy. Now he's looking around, he's got Fernandes, Greenwood looks a heck of a player, Martial now looks like a proper forward. So I think he will be happy to stay. And then, the contract, I think he's got 2 years left, so I think he'll be offered another one, but I think I'm not too sure if that's going to happen. This window or these weeks we're on now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an amazing summer. You get Pogba to sign a new deal and you bring in Sancho. I think that's a fantastic window. Let's try and get 2 questions done in 2 minutes. The first one is all about you, actually, Jamie. Okay. Is what is it like doing pressers on Zoom? What is that like as a? Is it the same? Is it more difficult? Like,
yeah, it's an interesting question. One of the things you have in your sort of armory as a reporter is the question, but then the follow-up to that question. So you'll ask a question, I don't know, is Harry Maguire threatening enough in the opposition penalty area, for example? You get an answer which is going to be, obviously positive, diplomatic, and then it's the follow-up that you could often sort of maybe just dig a little bit deeper. Now, on Zoom, it's not always easy to do that. You almost have to sort of ask for a follow-up, because what happens, and I understand why this is going on, is they'll unmute you when it's your turn for a question, but then as soon as you've asked a question, they mute you again, so you can't go back in. So that sort of thing isn't great. And listen, nothing beats whatever it is you want to be actually in the live situation. Of course, I enjoy press conferences, but yeah, listen, they're better than nothing. It's not ideal, and it'd be interesting to see if and when we do go back to proper press, because I think clubs as well miss it. I think for other reasons, I think why they miss it is just because it's easier, or to package up their TV clips for sponsors and all that sort of thing. If you've got like actual journalists in the room, But yeah, it's not impossible, and it could lead to some funny moments. There was one time when Ollie's mic wasn't on basically, and he sat there and talked for a little while after a game. I can't remember. Those sort of things. So it's just like anything, really. Just get on with it.
And we've all got to work from home now, so it's just the way it is, or if we can work from home anyway. And last question, Jamie. This could actually be a full show, this question, so I'm going to be very interested to see how you condense down your answer. Any thoughts on a director of football for Manchester United Football Club?
Right. So I happened to break this story when it first. We did it in the Observer, I think, going back 2 years now. Yeah, because Mourinho was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, one of the things I put to the people I was talking to about it was, well, what's Mourinho saying about this? And the answer at the time was, well, we don't, he'll have to put up with it. But then it did, it has obviously gone away. And now what they are saying, what the view is, yes, listen, we understand that we sold David Moyes up the river with that Fellaini summer. Basically the recruitment's not been good enough. Because football management is actually quite simple, even though it's difficult to pull off. But just get good players. I know that sounds really, really obvious, but United for many years, it was duff, basically, the recruitment. So on the director of football now, it's now become a technical director who wouldn't be above the manager if and when they hire this person, this entity. So that already had been downgraded, because the idea, originally was, like Begarestain at City, where whoever the manager is, the director of football is sort of in charge of making sure the right players go through the culture of the club, that sort of thing. I still think it'd be a good idea at United. One thing to say, because it's always stressed to me, is that Woodward himself does not have any football input on player side. He doesn't give his opinion as a football man, because he obviously accepts that's not his area of expertise. He has to sign things off, the budget. He is the chief executive, even though he's the executive vice chairman. But I don't think it'll happen now, or if it does, it'll just be a person who, is attached to Ollie's sort of team rather than being above him. And personally, really, that's how it works at City. So Begarestain is above Guardiola, but no player gets signed at that club unless Guardiola wants. It's Pep Guardiola, and I think this is why the Fernandes signing was good. The season Solskjaer had is good, and if you can get Sancho in, because all the time he's making it more and more his club, and his authority is growing. He's been trusted more, because in the end, I think you have to live or die by the players you have in your team, and therefore you have to have the input into signing them. So I don't think a director of football should be able to sign players, but not then have the responsibility if they don't work. I think it's one or the other. No, so I'd be surprised if it happens now.
Well, and like you said earlier on, just reflecting on what you said earlier on, we've turned a corner when it comes to our recruitment slightly, with Ollie pulling the trigger. And I also think Mike Phelan's underrated within this whole setup, I think, massively, and also potentially Michael Carrick too, because there's Carrick, from what I've heard, and we could do a whole show on this, I reckon. He has been very influential with our midfield throughout this season. He took Fred aside and has done a lot with Fred. He worked a lot with Matic before Christmas as well. So I do think that that there's a lot going on inside the club that's really positive that we don't know about. But unfortunately, the big negatives with the club is unfortunately the way it's run and the Glazers behind it. Because also earlier on, it's quite funny, you were saying United is a club with a lot of money. We've also got owners with a lot of money as well, but they don't put the money back into the club. They obviously take it out at their being as well, and the debt is still growing. So it's a case of that United need to get some stability, and there is money to spend. But also, I do agree with the people who say the money's to be spent, but it needs to start being spent right. Because imagine if we spent 41 million on Nathan Ake and he didn't end up starting alongside Maguire next season, and he didn't end up playing a pivotal role in that defence. It would have been a waste of 40 million, whereas City can afford for him to be a backup option. They just can do, because they've got a football team with phenomenal players.
I slightly differ with you there. Only in that, I think if you bring an Ake in, he doesn't play all the time with starting all the time. But what happens is when it's a team with pace, we're going to get at you with pace. Then you bring in your fast guy to partner Maguire or Lindelof. Because I think it's a nice position to be in, to have that option. I mean, 40 million now for sort of a first team player at United is kind of cheap. It sounds a bit odd, but
you're not wrong. Yeah, well, and we go back speaking about Lingard earlier on, and a price tag for a good player. again, Jesse Lingard, if he's worth 25 million and he's a United squad player, then yeah, you're right. If you're bringing in a Nathan Ake to a side, 40 million is nothing for a club like Manchester United when you need quality and depth. Anyway, Jamie, in a couple of weeks, love to get you back on to chat some more on some other stuff with you, because I know we're biting into your time and you've got the presses due a little bit later on as well. So I appreciate you coming out of the sun and joining us on the channel. Where can people go and find out more about your work? And obviously you've got a book out as well, right?
Yeah, the end of October, I've got a biography of Solskjaer coming out, published by Simon & Schuster, obviously a very good publishing house. It's a biography, so cradle to now kind of thing, tracing his life from being a kid. And that in itself was interesting because obviously he was very up and down, wasn't it, United? And it looked like he could be sacked a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And working on this biography for a year and a half and speaking to over 50 people and other sort of primary, other sources of information, especially former players of his who he'd had, previous clubs he managed, it was like they lit up when they were speaking about him. He made that sort of lasting impression. So I'm getting all this information. I'm thinking, I'm sure he has got a chance of doing this, but can he actually just get the time to do it? And he's come through that now. So yeah, that'll be out the end of October.
It'd be great if the final line is, and then he signed Sancho. ...
Hey, well be. Who knows? I've written it all apart from the Europa League, this phase of. So let's wait and see. But it is a feel good story now, though, isn't it? If you're a United follower, or anyone involved at United, because it's kind of changed. Basically, Fernandes coming in, I think, was the key.
100%. Well, Jamie, I definitely think we should get you on before that and chat more in depth about Solskjaer as well, and do it to push the book, and also it'd be good to pick your brains more as the transfer season carries on. Thank you for your great work throughout it so far, and can't wait to catch up soon, mate. Thank you for coming on. And if you are joining All for United for the first time here right now, we've got loads more transfer Q&As coming up. Chris Winterburn will be on Wednesday with me, so make sure you join us for that. And it's your chance to ask some of the top football journalists in Britain questions, and we may also get someone from Europe as well. So hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. I'll be back nice and early tomorrow morning with Matchday Mornings as United go into a big game in the Europa League. Jamie, thanks again, mate, and fingers crossed next time we talk, Sancho will be a United player.
Nice one. Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.